always high. I'm not going to have my heartbeat feeling like it's unsettled. I'm not going to have fear in my mind. I'm not going to have anger. I'm going to avoid this. Get out. Get out right now. You see, as much as possible, and there's times when you can't do that. Then if it doesn't fit, you have to come to God for something else. He can keep you when you can't have a mate in marriage. He can keep you when you can't turn the troublemaker out of the house. He can keep you when you get laid off. But as much as possible, do diligence so that you can avoid the pitfalls that the devil has for you. And you can say, this is the day that God has made. I can rejoice in this day. I can rejoice in my situation. I can rejoice in my environment. I can rejoice in my surrounding. I can praise God for this. Now, I know people who send their children to public schools because of economic reasons. And I can remember times in being raised where that I always went to a public school, but my younger brother was able to go to a Christian school. There's times economically when you can't make the difference, but as much as possible, you don't want to subject your child to every kind of evil activity. You don't want your daughter to be in the middle of suggestions all the way that she's walking to school, humiliation. You don't want your son to run home to keep from getting beat up. Sure, God can keep him, but as much as possible, you want to avoid that kind of an environment for your children. I find too many people are simply saying, well, I turn it over to God. And that sounds good, but that really doesn't solve the problem always. You might say, well, I've turned my kids over to God, but they're getting dismantled in their peer group. You turn them over to God, but they're getting dismantled morally and spiritually as they're going to a public school or sometimes even a Christian school. I'm not saying that there's heaven in Christian schools, but nevertheless, as much as possible, we want children to be able to avoid the attack of the enemy. I think about a few years ago, some of you can relate to it. Some of you are not as old as I. But I remember when I grew up in school, the worst thing perhaps was, I remember getting me a stalk and lighting it. And I was a kid in a Christian home. And I think I was about 7 years of age, maybe, something like that, 8. And I took a big puff, and that fire went down my throat and just about burnt the backside of my neck out.